In early 2026, a series of crises has put a spotlight on a new, more assertive era in American foreign policy. From the Arctic to the Middle East, US actions under President Donald Trump are provoking a wave of backlash and dissent. I'm James Watson, and this is Across the Pond, where we throw light on the issues and bring you the stories that matter in US politics. First, the Greenland crisis. Trump has revived an extraordinary push to bring the semi-autonomous Danish territory into the United States one way or another, citing national security and strategic interests. Denmark and Greenland's leaders have emphatically rejected the idea, insisting the island is not for sale and must remain sovereign. Thousands protested in Copenhagen and Nuuk under banners like "Greenland is not for sale," signaling growing resentment toward US ambitions.
It's probably not the best of ideas. I wouldn't like it if he bought the UK, and I don't know what the people of Denmark or Greenland think, but it's just because he wants the resources, so it's not his.
This has intensified transatlantic tensions, with critics warning that unilateral demands could even push NATO allies to reinforce Greenland's defences and fracture long-standing alliances built since World War II. In a bid to exert pressure on European critics, Trump announced he will levy tariffs over countries opposing US plans over Greenland, threatening penalties of up to 25% on key allies from Denmark to the UK if they do not acquiesce. Analysts say this use of economic coercion marks a shift away from traditional diplomatic negotiation towards a more muscular use of US economic clout, raising questions about the future of alliances like NATO when economic penalties replace collaborative problem solving.
It isn't potentially a sign of weakness. Obviously it's an act that fundamentally is illegal, it is Denmark's territory, but I'd say potentially it's more of an aggressive act than one that's a sign of weakness in the US, potentially.
The Iranian leadership has publicly blamed the United States for stoking unrest at home, accusing Trump of inciting protests and destabilization after Tehran's brutal crackdown left thousands dead. Supreme Leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei has labeled the US a criminal power and tied American and Israeli influence to domestic turmoil. For many Iranians, who initially welcomed external expressions of support, hopes of diplomatic intervention were dashed after consistent US messaging left protesters feeling abandoned in the face of repression. Taken together, these events raise central questions about US foreign policy for observers. Has the United States entered a new phase of hegemonic behavior, one more willing to assert control over territory and influence over internal politics abroad?
I think we need to stand up a little bit more to the US in general. I think we should follow sort of France's lead, sort of what Macron's been doing. I think for too long now, Europe, particularly the UK, have sort of been sort of simping up to the US, and I think it's sort of time that at least sort of diplomatically we sort of hold our front and be a little bit more even aggressive with our opinions.
Critics argue that aligning military muscle with economic threats and diplomatic ultimatums recalls historic imperial models rather than modern alliance-based internationalism. Supporters of assertive policy counter that global rivalries from Russia to China demand a strong US posture. However, presidential ambition is not aligning with the view at home as public disapproval continues to swell. As the world watches Greenland, Iran, and beyond, other nations will be forced to reconsider their strategic relationship with the US. Until next time.